But what's up, y'all? We here, dog. Whoa, how y'all feeling? That's some crazy shit. Every time I get together with y'all be saying the wildest things. Like, if people heard the conversations off air, I swear, like,
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. How y'all feeling? Y'all look good. Y'all came ready to pod, no?
Yeah. I mean,
like
not everybody came. Not everybody came as color coordinated as yourself.
My man over here got the blue on the blue looking.
Yeah, but you
spiffy. You feel me? Like
you olive down over there. You know what I'm saying?
I'm feeling real olive green. One of my favorite colors. Shout out to color olive green.
Mm. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I like olive green.
I love it.
Green is dope.
Dope.
Yeah. Shout out to Ogun.
Heart chakra.
Hey.
Shout out to swords and axes.
Emeralds.
Yeah.
Weed.
Shout out to clearing the path.
Clearing the path.
That's what Ogun does. Ogun clears the path in front of you with the it's good. You know what I mean?
Those exact sounds, as a matter of fact.
Indeed.
Some of us need a lot of clearing of paths.
Indeed.
Hey.
Make sure you get your path cleared. However you got to do that, make sure you get it done.
No, that's facts.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, I guess, there's a little work to be done before you clear the path.
I mean, there's also a few different ways to look at that.
Clearing
your path.
What's the pre-clearing work?
Well, you got to know what the fuck path you want to be on.
Do you?
You can't just be like jumping around. You got to like.
Can you find the path on the journey, or do you need to map out the path before you start?
Well, see,
that's a real question.
See, I have to be able to see the shit before I do the shit.
That's
like I have to know the direction I'm going. I have to see it, visualize it, know the steps, blueprint it, if you will.
Right, but see, I understand the question.
Has anything good ever happened to you when you stepped off the path?
Oh, absolutely. That shit happens all the time. I go by the motto, we plan and God laughs. Period. Like, but we have to meet the universe halfway. It's how manifestation works.
Well, that's where I understand the distinction that's being made right now, because what I was saying is the only way that you can make an informed choice about when you are presented with something in front of you is if you have the ability to see how it lines up with what you are trying to do. You know what I'm saying? So, or with your goals. And so when something comes and flares up in your face, you're like, you know what? I was trying to do this, but this don't seem like I need to be on this exact path in order to make that happen, because this don't seem like it's, you know what I mean? Like, so, but you don't have that, if you don't have that point of reference, if you don't know, if you're just like, then you could be on any path. You know what I mean? And I understand what you're saying about how, you set a course. And I mean, my life is full of me finding opportunities outside of the course that I had originally been I had set out on. But more and more, what I'm finding, and part of what we've been, you and I have been talking about, just off, not on the pod, but just in our lives, is this: everybody wants you to bend all the time, and sometimes you don't need to be bending. And if you don't know that, if you don't have that serious notion of what your goal is and what the end goal is, or what you're trying to accomplish, then it's very difficult for you to make the correct decision, or the decision. I mean, I said last week there is no correct decision, it's just a decision, but the decision that's going to get you closer to that goal.
I mean, I feel like growth happens in the mistakes or the choices that aren't the correct choices, right? Because whatever that thing is that blows up in your face, like, this idea that everything around you is a mirror, right? So like there's something about that blowing up in your face, right, that you could discover, and then the choices you make after that are some that you have to stand on, if you know what I mean, because once you have the responsibility to choose, especially if something is destructive, or that lesson should have been learned, and then you move forward. So in terms of clearing path, I guess that can be looked at sometimes when I think of clearing paths, shit has to blow up. It has to get rough. It has to get destructive. Just by nature.
Oh, most definitely.
And so, I think the mistakes or the incorrect decisions are what makes the journey the journey. Like you have to be equipped for that particular thing that you're envisioning or the goal that you set out to achieve. Like you have to be equipped for that. And sometimes the universe or God has to, teach you a few things and test you a little bit to determine whether or not you're ready for that goal. And that's kind of how like I navigate, or I try to navigate in this 3D world. And so like it is imperative that you clear your path. However, in that way, in clearing your path, are you removing things that were necessary, right? If I'm thinking of it from a destructive standpoint, right? Like clear the path, like get it out the way, like move, allow me to get through. When sometimes it's not about, going this way. Maybe that thing in your path is meant for you to go around it or into another lane or,
right.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't know that. I know that just took us on a tangent, but I think it was a great idea.
We're right here. It's not a tangent. We're right here.
It is a great thing.
What do you think? What you think?
I think that
my man's JG.
Right. I'm prolific, so gifted. Hey, I'm the type that's gonna go get it.
So
shout out Nipsey Hussle.
Nipsey all day. It's interesting, right? Because like at one point in my life, I would be like, yeah, you got to clear the path. You got to clear. And I think that at this point in my life, the things that I've experienced, the things that I've seen, I think I'm much more of a find the path person. And that there's like two sides to that, right? Because find the path could be figure out where other people have tread before, because that's a certain kind of path, right? Like you find the path that other people have taken and you go, right? But there's that poem, I came to a fork in the woods and I chose the path less traveled and it made the journey all that much worthwhile. I paraphrased the shit out of that, but y'all can look up the real quote. And I really think that like sometimes finding the path is, let's say that you're someone that is going where people don't usually go, right? And sometimes there's a path of most resistance, there's a path of least resistance, there's a path of medium resistance. And I think that sometimes we find a path and we're like, this is the path. And we use all the tools that we have to try to stay on that path. Right? So if I have time, if I have energy, if I have resources, and I figured out that like, this is the path I want to take, I'm going to spend all my time, money, and resources figuring out how to stay on that path. So if an obstacle comes up on that path, I'll be like, this obstacle doesn't belong here, and I'll kick it over, much to what you're saying, right? Or I'll blow it up, or I'll chop it down, But sometimes that obstacle comes to send you on a detour. You know what I mean? Or that obstacle comes to tell you, this is not actually the path for you. And I think that it takes a different level of assessment, a different level of wisdom, and ultimately a different level of courage to be on a path that like you've committed resources to, and to be like, to figure out, oh, wait a minute, this isn't the path. And maybe the next path is not even apparent to you. But you're like, something has showed me that this is not the path. So I need to get off this path, regardless of what I've invested, regardless of how familiar it is, regardless of how accustomed I've been to being on this path, and the people that are on the path with me, I'm comfortable with them. Sometimes you're called to a different path.
Well, I guess the thing that popped up in my head immediately when you started talking about that is, it's a luxury to be able to. It's a privileged place to be in, to be able to say like, I'm gonna choose this path or whatever, because as Black people, one of the things that I'll say from my upbringing, and I think that it is something that is relevant in a lot of Black people's lives. We learned how to work with what we got, right? Like that's like one of the major tenets of existing and surviving in this place. It's like
gotta use what you got.
You gotta use what you got.
Where gumbo came from.
Yeah, you know, yeah, that's where exactly. Yeah. You know what I mean? All that. So one of the things that has one of the reasons that, or one of the things that has pushed my growth is understanding that sometimes you can. Let me rephrase it. I'm sorry. I have been put in a lot of positions where it wasn't for me as a musician. I'm trying to make music, make albums, make art, right? And I've been in situations that weren't exactly what I envisioned for what my band would be, what my, you know what I mean, what sound I was trying to do or whatever. But I have still approached those things understanding that I can take what I have here and make something out of it, right? You know what I mean? And so part of what's happening for me right now is that pre-work that I was talking about, understanding that there are actually some elements that need to be in place before I can say, yes, I'm going to do this, or before I'm going to put some energy to try and create, you know what I mean? Because before I'm just like, hey, there's this situation. I could do something with that. There's this situation. I could do something with that. But as time progresses and those situations show you, you know, I've created some, all of us have created something out of nothing over and over and over again. You know what I mean? But there is something to knowing where you work best, or your optimal conditions, or your, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I'm totally with you. And it makes me think of these past couple days. I've watched 2 different shows, and 2 different celebrities have stated that they have put themselves in a situation to force them to be better, right? So like, it wasn't that a circumstance arrived and they had to fight their way. It was like, nah, one was like, yo, I chose to live in a hotel for 6 months so that I could buy a house. Another one was like, I chose to be homeless and sleep in my car until I made it into whatever successful industry it was. He was a wrestler. So until he made it, he was like, I'm gonna sleep in my car by choice. Like you choose the rocky road or the challenge, right? Because you understand that challenge is going to make a better you, a better something, a better. So like, yes, we could be like, you know, in some ways it's like, well, like you said, choices or privilege, right? Or luxury, the luxury or privilege they had to even make that choice. Right, because they could, yeah, well, I could be homeless. And there's people out here there's artists that I've known that are like, yo, I've been homeless, and as an artist, and been trying or been close to the edge of being homeless, right? 30-day notices, eviction notices every month, you know, just for believing in a dream, believing in, you know, and they have no control of that. It's really like, yo, I'm just trying to make it. I ain't got shit right now, but like my willpower, my passion, my love, and like that is what I'm looking, right? But then when you have somebody that's like, I'm gonna choose, even though because I know I'm gonna take 10 steps back, because I know that 10 steps gonna propel me 20 to 30 steps forward, in any regard, right? And what we could fit that in multiple frames. So like, I think this idea, you know, back to the clearing the path, and, you know, all these ideas of what that means for us, and paths in general, like, you know, your own path, right? So a solo path, I see my path as not one directional, but it's one journey, one path. So like, whether that means the path goes this way or this way or this way, right, I lay that in the hands of God and my divine ancestors to guide me. And yes, when there's a fork in the road, metaphorically, right, where it's like, okay, Phree, you can go left or you can go right. That happens often. That's every day when you wake up. It's like, well, you can do this or you can do that. Where you apply your intentions and energy, yes, is valuable and is important. However, I ain't never been scared of shit or much in this life. I've been scared a few things. Don't let me fool you. But I mean, like, there's like the challenge I've never been afraid of, right? This idea of transforming or transmuting or like being able to see something through. You make fun of me all the time, not make fun of, but you're like, yo, Phree, you just be wanting to see the shit come full circle. You just be wanting to see the shit come together. You just hope that even though it's rough right now and the shit looks hard and challenging, and you should get the fuck out of there, right? Because that's the initial thing. Oh, this shit's burnt. You don't see that fire? Get the fuck out of the fire. And I'm like, yeah, but once the fire is out, and maybe that's self-sabotage.
Yeah, if I get a wet blanket, nigga, you know what I'm saying?
Maybe that's self-sabotage, because it's like, bruh, you're really gonna go through that fire? And I'm like, yeah, well, I am. And so is the result gonna be that I burn?
No.
Yeah.
Not all the time. Not every
Unless
time.
you get a cold blanket.
Not every time.
But no, not all the time. But the expectation has to be. You have to prepare for the worst.
Oh yeah.
So to me, it's like, and I get that concept.
What are you
this motherfucker looks at us and be like, "That's toxic." Like,
why is he laughing?
You motherfuckers.
Nah.
He looks at me and you felt the same way. Like, yeah, y'all would be fucking.
It's not toxic. It's actually beautiful, right? Like, how contrarian is it to look at fire and be like, if I walk into that fire, am I gonna get burned? Phree is like, absolutely. Tucson's like, not necessarily, right?
Not really.
But no. Like that is
that's a real thing, though.
That is some badass.
That's a real thing.
That's some badass creative energy. That's exactly what you're talking about, right? Like, it's that question of like, if I choose to be homeless right now, what's gonna happen to me, right? Because like for a lot of people, the path is simply defined by don't be homeless, right? For a lot of people, the path is simply defined by don't die. Or the path is simply defined by don't take a risk, right? And like, I think that sometimes for creatives, the path looks very, very different. And I just want to talk for a second. We've been talking a lot, or this conversation started with, how do you find the path, or how do you prepare the path for you, right? How do you clear the path? And I just, one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about lately, right? Like, shout outs to spring. Spring is here. It's the first day of spring.
Yes,
we just went through a period of winter.
Spring is my favorite season.
Winter is hibernation, is contemplation, is darkness, is meditation. There's a lot of self-reflective work that can happen in the wintertime, right? And like, what is it that we're doing to prepare ourselves for the path once we find it, right? Because like part of the thing that you're saying, right? Like we take what we have to make what we can, right? And I feel like that's part of the path too, though, right? Like that learning of like, what does it take for me to really be in the environments that I want to be, to express my creativity in the way that I want to express it, to have the things reflected back to me that I want reflected back to me. How do I prepare myself with the confidence, with the self-assurance, with the self-awareness, with the awareness of other people and how they really operate and get down, the sensing of energy, the understanding of ebb and flow and cycles of time and success and failure and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How do I prepare myself for the path? Because I think that a lot of times people will find themselves on a path that might be the right path for them. And because they don't feel comfortable, it doesn't seem familiar, it wasn't what they expected, they step off the path. We had this conversation with a slightly different metaphor off pod. We were talking about mirrors and this idea. There's like this folklore around mirrors that it's unlucky to break a mirror. And Stevie Wonder says it in the song Superstition, you know what I'm saying? You break a mirror, you get 7 years of bad luck, right? And getting into kind of like the esoteric meaning behind that of like, what is a mirror? You know what I'm saying? And what does it mean to break a mirror, and et cetera, et cetera. And we're talking about past today, so we won't go too deeply into the mirror thing, but the idea being that a mirror is a reflection of yourself. The mirror is an opportunity to understand yourself, an opportunity to understand your purpose, what you're made for, what your blessings are, where they're coming from, where this is leading you. It's a way for you to better understand. And sometimes when we see a mirror, it makes us uncomfortable. And so we push it away, right? We break that mirror. We push that mirror away. We won't look at the reflection. We won't understand what's trying to be brought to us or taught to us in that moment. And that's what the curse is, right? Because like those opportunities to understand sometimes go in cycles. Sometimes it's not there every day. Sometimes you really have to seek it out. Sometimes it is a divine timing of like, this is the lesson that you're supposed to learn at this point in this path on this journey. And like, if you disregard the lesson, you're still going to learn the lesson, right? But like, it's going to make your path more difficult than it needs to be because you haven't prepared yourself for the path. You haven't figured out how to identify, oh, that's what this is here for. Oh, that's what this is here for. Oh, well, that shiny thing over there that looks so much like my goal is not actually my goal. That's actually a distraction.
Right.
And I'm using my tools to clear a path to get to that shiny thing. And then I get to the shiny thing. I'm like, oh, man, this wasn't it. So now I got to backtrack to get back on the path and learning the difference between a shiny thing and a mirror. Because a lot of times things look like blessings that aren't blessings. You know what I mean?
Well, that's exactly, you know, I appreciate.
I'm sorry to bring it full circle. Sometimes things look like fire that aren't fire. So I actually agree with you. Sometimes you do see something that appears to be on fire and your thought is, oh, if I go into there, I'm going to burn up. But maybe that's where you're supposed to be. And maybe the fire is to keep other people and other people's energy away from that situation. Maybe your bravery is what's drawing you into a blessing that's only meant for you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, basically, a nigga was right.
So that,
you gotta pre-clear the path. You know what I'm saying? I said that shit. You know what I mean? I said that in the beginning. Y'all niggas just proved my point. Thank you.
Speaking of your paths and clearing them, how do you feel?
You gotta give us 1 second to regain our composure. Jesus, if shit talking was a person, boy.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Speaking of paths,
laughter is medicine for the soul.
Absolutely.
So please,
I'm an idiot.
I love your laugh.
Please forgive me, everyone. I just had, I'm on one right now. It's been a rough few days.
Just right now, though, not usually.
No.
To the people that listen to us, because we already discovered that we only pod for the people that we know. So all of y'all out there know too. None of this shit is fucking like new. Like none of it. Like this shit is, it's a spot on. We love this shit. You know what I'm saying? But speaking of paths and clearing them, how do y'all feel about the phrase hard work beats talent because talent don't work hard?
You want to go first?
First of all, how do y'all feel about the hard work beats talent every time joint? Like, let's break that down. Cause I hear that shit often. Fucking often.
It sounds like some white supremacist bullshit to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I call bullshit on that.
I call complete bullshit.
It sounds
because
like
it's like pull yourself up by your bootstrap, nigga. You know what I mean? Like
it sounds like another. It sounds like another. It sounds like another. It sounds like another way that like capitalism uses meritocracy to convince people that they're not worth caring about. Right? Like it's a.
Look how I got here. I pulled myself up. Nigga, you didn't do shit. Your parents gave you $1 billion and now you know what I'm saying? Get the fuck out of here with this shit.
But also, hard work beats talent at what?
At what?
Right? Like what is the competition? Who determines who's the winner? Who has the most dollars at the end of the day?
Yeah, then I lost, nigga.
Well, then I ask y'all, what do y'all beat? What's the beat? Like, what's the beat? I think. Like, what's the beating? What are we beating?
I call bullshit on a couple tips, right? Like one. What is it that hard work and talent are competing for? That seems unclear in this scenario. But also, that talent doesn't work hard seems like nonsense to me. Right? Like the most talented people that I know, and some of the most talented people that I know of work hard as shit. Right? Like, and it's like,
how do you see? I think the thing is like, how do you see hard work too? Like, what is work to you versus to somebody else?
What does work mean, right?
What does work mean? Yeah.
And what is
this statement, it means kissing the ass so that you can, you know what I mean, like, and assimilating so that you can, so everybody says that you are, you know, more your hard work beat the talent of it. Like, fuck these motherfuckers. I'm not looking for your approval. I'm doing this shit because I need to do it. You know what I'm saying? So, and yes. Does it take hard work to accomplish everything? Of course. Yes, it takes hard work to do that. And if you're talented, the recognition, if you have any self-reflection at all, the recognition that you have talent makes you want to fucking work hard.
But also, if you want to turn your talent into something that people can appreciate, maybe for validation, maybe because you feel like your talent is there to help other people, or you want to engage your talent because it's a calling that you have in your heart that you can't get away from. I feel like most people that you think of as talented, what you're actually seeing when they practice their gift in front of you is the result of a lot of work that you didn't see,
exactly.
Right? And I think that this thing, that hard work beats talent because talent don't work hard, comes from a place of like, well, can I see you putting the effort in?
It's
right?
the need to be seen.
Are you meeting
validation?
Are you meeting my expectation of what hard work is? And are you performing that for me somewhere in public? Right? Because like before you hear me sing a song well, I hear myself sing it not as well a bunch of times. Right?
Yeah.
And it's like,
and I do breathing exercises. I do like, I watch my diet.
And I think about I think about my technique, and I think about, and you know, as somebody who's been at less than 100% for the past more than 5 years, right? I work really, really hard to make sure that when people see me, it's not apparent to them that I feel less than 100%.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Ooh,
So hold on. So it sounds to me like what you're saying is that I am not the only warrior in the building.
Ooh, come on. Alchemist.
Because the thing that y'all were trying to say, yeah, you feel that last week when we were talking about, like, you know, when I was saying like it's war out here, and they're like, yeah, you understand that, but motherfucker, you understand it very, very clearly. That's why we get along. And
right.
so,
I would never say it's not war out here.
Yeah, no, I know, but
he's a warrior. He's a
serious. He's a warrior with a heart, I guess. Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, but no. It's more about the destructiveness of his warrior that I respect. He keeps in the tuck. It's more about what he can do to you rather than what you can do to him.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this.
Am I wrong?
I'll tell you this. I'm not quite sure exactly what that means, but I'm with you. You know, I'm with you all the way. You know what I mean?
Because like his warrior is different. So like your example is like, well, you cause you're like, oh, front and center, I'm gonna blow the shit up right here. Fuck that shit. And he's like, I could blow that shit up.
No, but see, the thing is, I express it differently, but we move similarly. Like I have to say it. I have to, because that's just who I am. But I still am strategic in the background and moving strategically.
Some people would argue that your way of doing it is more kind. Because motherfuckers are always going to see you coming. You will always issue a warning first.
Yes, bitch.
See?
I have more of a tendency to move in silence.
Yeah, so
and that shit always hurts more when somebody don't talk to you. See, look at that. You just triggered child. Oh, no. Child and trauma. I'm triggered as fuck.
That's why you don't like this motherfucker right now.
No, I'm not saying.
I'm triggered.
I'm not saying I'm not willing to have a conversation.
No, that's some Aquarian. Not even Aquarian. That's some air sign ass shit. Like, look, let it fly. I'd rather not say shit, and I'll hurt you more than ever fucking blow up. That shit used to kill me as a kid. My mom used to But then when she didn't speak, it's like you anticipated. I know trigger trauma, but like it's like you anticipating the ass whooping because if you don't talk to me, I'm like fucked up for a week. Like I wish you would just. I know that's terrible. I don't condone. But like,
shout out to survivors of.
Yeah, I apologize. I just threw that out there.
No. Shout out to survivors of all kinds of abuse, right? Yeah. Because there's physical, there's emotional, there's psychological, there's spiritual, right? And like.
Motherfuckers don't talk about the last one you just said that you just breathed. Spiritual. That was probably the most important one.
Yes, it is.
Listen, the way that it turns you into a person that reads other people for safety.
Talk about that shit.
Right? And like a person that masks for safety. Bro, like people will see abuse. They will witness it in front of their face. They'll witness someone being emotionally abusive or psychologically abusive. And we as a society tend to have a standard that physical abuse is too far. You're not allowed to hit someone, right? But you're allowed to undermine somebody. You're allowed to talk shit to somebody. You're allowed to cuss somebody out. You're allowed to cause someone to question their self-worth.
Manipulate, gaslight,
whatever, right? To a large degree. Like I wouldn't even say to a certain degree, like to past the point of, this is really, really obviously damaging to this person, right? And we don't have really the legal or the social consequences for that we have for raising your hand to someone, right? But the idea that kind of abuse from human to human of any of the kinds that we listed is not damaging to us as humans overall is a false safety and ignorance that people are living in. Because the more damaged people there are on the planet, the more damaged humanity is.
Well, but to take that even further, I mean, if we want to be really real about it, that I've been using this analogy a lot lately because I think it just rings true. That what you're talking about, like the feeling that you have, if you're all of us have been in romantic relationships where we have felt betrayed by the other person, right? Like something, either they slept with somebody else or they did something that felt like it was a betrayal of trust, because when you're in a romantic relationship, you are vulnerable and all of those different things, right? So all of us understand and know that feeling of like betrayal, right? But we can't, it seems it's really difficult for us to make the connection that every day that we are alive here in America, we are living through that betrayal, because everything that they are saying to us on one hand that is being purported as truth is not actually truth. You know what I mean? And so that is what you're talking about, abuse in our family situation, but we are experiencing abuse on a grand scale because it's psychological abuse, and we're wondering why people are not okay. It's because you are being forced to digest a lie every day that is truth, and that disguised that it's disguised as truth.
That you believe to be true,
but you believe it to be true. So this this statement, like, everybody always says this shit. It fucking kills me. Everything happens for a reason. No, everything happens for 1,000 different reasons. It's one of these different, like this hard work, like this. It's just one of those cliches that people say all the time that absolutely has no it has no meaning. It has no bearing on reality, and it doesn't reflect reality at all.
And it takes out of the equation luck, which plays a huge part in success, and something that you referenced earlier. What's your starting point with this?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what some people are starting on the 99-yard line of a 100-yard dash with the resources, with the comfort, with the privilege, the home security, food security, education security that they have, right? And that's not shade to having home security and food security and education security. I just think that, like, as humanity, rather than fighting to see who can have more than who, and be defined by that as like, I'm greater than you because you have less shit than me, maybe we should be trying to figure out how to move everybody further down the field, right? Because the same way that it works, the more damaged people there are on the planet, the worse it is for humanity. The more well people there are on the planet, the better it is for humanity.
Well, that's the same. That's like what I was.
Yeah.
I think there's just a lot of people that operate from a selfish place in terms of getting what they need to get, survival. And sometimes selfish, what we call selfish, is like survival for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like,
but those are values that are
taught to us by society.
That's what I'm trying to say.
You gotta be selfish if you want to survive,
right?
So that is the nature.
So it's revolutionary to love someone. It's revolutionary to be forgiving. It's revolutionary.
Yeah.
That's why what we're talking about is
monogamy is revolutionary, fam.
Oh, word? That's where you want to take
it? It's revolutionary.
We gotta do it one more time.
You are now in tune to the Phree Game Podcast.
Okay. Yellow dope.